Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Danielle, and today I'm going to be starting my spoiler-filled Iron Flame reading vlog. I am so excited to have this book. I was really upset. My Amazon pre-order, I just got notification this morning that the delivery was going to be delayed. So I ran out before work and I went to Walmart and picked up a copy of it. It is the one with the sprayed edges, so I'm super excited. I definitely am going to be starting this probably within the next 5-10 minutes before I have to go into work, and then I'll definitely be reading some on lunch. Once I get into it, I'll check in with you guys and let you know what I'm thinking, but first, a short clip of me going to buy this. Hey guys, so before we get on into my first update, I do just want to reiterate that this is going to be a spoiler-filled vlog, so if you have not read this book yet, please pause this, go read it, come back so that we can freak out about it together, because I'm very excited to get on into this. So after running out to Walmart yesterday and picking up a copy, I have my book right here. I have read the first 7 chapters so far, and I'm really enjoying it. I do have quite a few tabs in there. I don't know if you could see that, but I've tabbed, I've annotated, I've underlined. Yes, I am writing in the first edition, but I don't plan to get rid of this, so I like to have tabs and annotations in my books. I think what I'm actually going to do is when I get my copy of the special edition of Fourth Wing is I'm going to take the tabs out of the top of the Fourth Wing that I had done and move them over into the holiday one so that both the black edges match, and then I can have all of the tabs on the black edges as well. So I'm really excited about that. So we pretty much start off right where we left off, which was awesome since we didn't have to miss anything. I think there's maybe a week in between where they did some stuff and Violet was healing from her injury. So when we start off, they are at Ryerson House after Violet was stabbed and they had to take her to Brennan to be saved. And Violet is really angry at Xaden still for lying to her. Violet and Brennan end up having a heart-to-heart, which was really nice to see. I kind of enjoyed their banter, even though she was annoyed that he was lying to them the whole time and still lying to their family. Obviously, she still loves him and is happy that he's alive, so that was nice to see. Right away, though, we head into a meeting that they're all having, pretty much about her and having to send them back to Basgiath, and nobody wants to trust Violet because she is General Sorrengail's daughter. And during this meeting, it's kind of funny to see Violet pretty much simping over Xaden and how good he looks up at the front, even though she's angry at him. Also, Xaden has been protecting Andarna while Violet was healing because Andarna apparently has grown twice inside and her scales have turned black, which was interesting. I guess expending all that energy to pause time made her grow really quickly. So now she's going to be going into something called the dreamless sleep. So they actually need to get her back to Basgiath so that she can go be with the other dragons so that she can pretty much sleep for 2 months. And then it was interesting to see that even though Violet's dad had told them stories about the Venin growing up, Brennan really didn't have any recollection of it. So when Violet tells Brennan that the Venin are created and not hatched, he is completely surprised. And I'm kind of wondering why he didn't remember that. I guess Violet was always the scribe of the family, so she really enjoyed those stories that her dad told her. But for her to just show up and tell them something that they didn't know for 6 years was kind of interesting. And then Brennan telling her that they had that extra ward stone as well was pretty interesting because I think Violet, being Violet, is going to go back and try and figure out how to make that ward stone work again so that they can put up wards around some of the other places. Also, I found it funny when Tairn told Violet that Andarna was pretty much a teenager now and that everybody should be wary of her because she's going to be a terror. I'm excited to see more of Andarna in the rest of the book. Then they also end up going back to Basgiath, and when they get there, roll call is being called for the people that have died, and Xaden's name pops up and he pops out of the shadows being like, well, this is awkward, I'm right here. So that was fun. We got to see everybody scrambling because the people that thought they should have died were kind of surprised that they didn't die and that they came back. And Commander Atos was not happy about it. General Sorengale found out that Atos sent them to war, and she was not happy and ends up sending him off to an outpost far away. So that's kind of good because he was annoying and I don't want to see him anymore. So we also found out that Xaden is being shipped off to an outpost pretty far away. I think it's like a day's flight, which is not going to be good for Taryn and Sigale. I know they are very angry about it. Violet and Xaden only get every 14 days. They get 2 days where they can go fly. So they're going to do it in rotating shifts. So 1 week Violet will start and she'll go out, and then 7 days later Xaden will come in, and then 7 days from that Violet will go out again. So it's a rotating scale for them. So that's kind of my update now. I do have to go to work, so I will read a little bit more today and hopefully check in with you tomorrow. Sorry about the heat in the background. It is what it is. But we're at conscription day right now, and oh my gosh. So Sloane, who's Liam's brother, shows up, and she does not like Violet at all. She cannot stand her, and she has made it known. She ends up in the same squad, so Dane actually went and got her from a different one and brought her over for Violet. I think he's trying to make up for everything he's done. And now they're all at the part where the dragons come and like stand on the stones, and a couple of the cadets ran because they were afraid, and this like unstable dragon ends up killing them with dragon fire. But he waited until the moment where they were directly in front of Fourth Wing and ends up killing one of the people from the rebellion. He ends up killing Kieran, and they think that it was actually staged to do that on purpose. Wow. So Taryn ends up showing up to pretty much intimidate the orange Daggertail with the one eye, and he pretty much threatens him that he's going to kill his human, and he's also going to rip out the last eye that he left that Daggertail. I love Taryn. I love how he looks out for Violet. That was a crazy chapter. I can't wait to go on. So also I am listening along with this. I got the audiobook. It is narrated by Rebecca Soler and Teddy Hamilton, and I'm really enjoying doing both at the same time. Rebecca is really good at the voices, and I get like super invested in it when I'm listening to her. Somebody just tried to assassinate Violet, but ended up killing the wrong person because they claimed to be Violet, I think in a joking manner, and now they're dead. This book is so good so far. I'm really, really enjoying it. Hey guys, so I'm here with a quick update before I head into work, but I did want to show you that I got my copy of Iron Flame from Waterstones in yesterday, and I absolutely love it. It is so pretty. It has these beautiful sprayed edges with the dragon on them, and then if you take off the dust jacket, it has this really pretty end paper. This is on both sides, so we get Violet and Xaden. And I'm really happy to have this. I do have the Iron Flame one coming, but that doesn't come out until January, so I'll definitely be showing that off when I get it. I cannot stand Varish. He is so annoying. He's pretty much the new Atos. I know Varish is the one with the orange Daggertail. He has Solus, and Taryn does not like Solus. He is kind of crazy, and I think that is bleeding off into Varish. So every time Violet leaves to go visit Xaden at his outpost, Varish pretty much ransacks her backpack. I don't know why they've never checked Taryn though, because he's the one carrying all of the swords and stuff, but Violet is getting the brunt of it. He pretty much dumps out her pack. He's harassing her. Not cool, Varish, not cool. But hopefully he gets his comeuppance in the end. He does seem to have a sort of grudge against Andarna since she won't show up to flight maneuvers. Since Varish has heard reports of a new black dragon, I'm wondering if he's connecting that to Andarna. And that's why he's trying to force her to come to flight training. So Taryn is like, it's finally enough, you cannot command a dragon. So he pretty much bites down on Solas's neck and Solas starts bleeding, and Varish pretty much has to stop what he's doing so that his dragon doesn't die, so that he doesn't die. And Taryn is threatening Solas, saying that if you do this again, I will pretty much kill you. And I think because Varish has such a grudge against Violet, he's also trying to keep Xaden and Violet apart. So every time Violet goes to visit Xaden, he's out working and they can't be together. When Xaden comes to her, she is busy doing things. I know one time they had this RSC class where they're dropped out into the forest and have to find their way back. They do lose some people during that because they can't work together with the other team. They've been given 2 maps, but nobody looks closely enough to notice that they're not the same. So she does not get back in time to see him, although Taryn and Sigale are able to see each other, so that is the most important part. But I really want more Violet and Xaden, so I'm hoping that they can figure something out so that next time they're actually able to see each other. We also meet Liam's sister in this. She comes and she's super bad at fighting, which is kind of surprising to everybody since Liam was such a good fighter. So Violet actually is going to help her, even though Sloane doesn't like Violet at all because she believes that she's the reason for Liam's death. But Violet tells her that she's going to have her train with Imogen, and every week she will give her one of Liam's letters after training to make sure she's actually doing it and help her stay alive. And then during our last training session, Dane actually challenges Violet on the mat, and she's pretty much like, do not touch me, I will kill you if you touch me. But he really just wants to talk to her, and he didn't really realize what he did in telling his father what he saw in her vision in the last book. I don't have any hopes that he's going to get better this book, but I really hope he doesn't do anything else that's going to hurt anybody. And then right where I left off was finding out that Cam, who is the king's son, who Violet knows, actually knows about the venin, and that is why he is there training. He's trying to skirt around his father because he wants to help instead of hide away like the king is doing. I'm excited to pick up more of this book. I am taking it pretty slow though. I'm trying not to rush through it. I really want to take in all the information. So I will check back in when I read a little bit more. Some crazy stuff has been happening in this book. I am just floored. I'm having a really good time though. So I've gotten up to the part where Varish ends up taking in her squad for interrogation, and he brings in Dane. What the F, Varish? He pretty much just wants to steal whatever Violet knows. So he's bringing in Dane so that he can read her memories. Not cool at all. At least Dane says he doesn't want to do it, so that was a good thing. I don't know if that makes me like Dane anymore, but he is respecting her wishes. He saw that she was hurt, and hurt cadets should not be going through this interrogation, and I think he's starting to see that Varish has it out for Violet. One good thing when they got out was Violet still had her knives on her that Xaden had made for her, and those were of that special alloy, so it actually unlocked the door and let them out. No team has ever gotten out before, so they have a special patch now that they can sew on their jackets. So Samara was attacked, and that is where Xaden is. He was severely hurt. Violet found that out from class when the teachers were talking about the one rider that got hurt. They never actually said names, but the one teacher took her hand and was like scratching her neck where Xaden has his tattoo, and that kind of tipped Violet off that it was Xaden that was hurt. So she left immediately, got on Taryn, and flew away, which is not allowed because she is not on leave right now. So something bad is definitely happening when she gets back, and it does. But when she gets to Xaden, she finds out that he's okay. The healer was actually there and healed him. But Xaden has this wicked scar down his arm now, and hopefully that's just going to add to his sex appeal, because we all know we love Xaden. So when she does get back, it's conscription day for the first years, and they go through that. Violet is actually put on duty to guard this one area, and when she gets there, the girl that she's going to relieve is there, and they start talking, and then all of a sudden these armed people come in and start attacking them, and Atos actually sent them to kill her. They end up killing the other girl instead, and Violet falls off the edge of whatever she's like standing on, and she's holding on by her fingers, and Jack Barlow actually comes and rescues her and like pulls her back to safety, which was really weird because she thought that he was going to kill her, but he ends up saving her, which totally unlike him. But maybe this Jack Barlow is a new Jack Barlow and he's not as bad as he used to be since he's been brought back from the dead. And then I left off where Jacinia, who is the scribe, found a vault under the scribe area, but they need somebody with the king's blood to let them in, and Violet's like, oh, well, I actually know somebody with the king's blood. So I think they're going to go find Cam and get in, but that is where I left off. I'm really excited to get back to it, and I will check in with you when I get to part 2. I think that's only like 50 pages away, but I wanted to do this check-in before I kept going. So quite a few things happened in the last 50 pages that I needed to read to get to part 2. The first thing that happened was Violet and everybody went down to the archives. They got Cam to help, and Jacinia took them down and got them in. They went through all of these wards so that they could get into the king's personal collection. There they stole 2 of the notebooks that kind of explain how the wards were set up. They almost get stuck in the archives because the doors close and then don't open for 12 hours. They literally sneak by with like that much door left open. Thankfully, nobody got stuck down there, but when they get out, Violet decides to send Xaden home early with one of the books to take back to Brennan. But right as he leaves, Varish comes out, and Xaden gets away luckily, but Violet didn't realize that she ended up still having the bag that the book was in. Xaden didn't actually end up taking it with him, which was bad because Varish took it off of her and pretty much locked her in a prison cell down in the basement and tortured her for 5 days to try and get this information from her. Varish has gone off the deep end. He brings Dane in again, which I don't know why Varish thought that Dane would help him when he didn't help the first time, but essentially Dane actually does help, and he takes all of Violet's memories. He does tell Varish what's going on, but at the same time, he asks for Violet's dagger so that he can get a closer look at it, and then actually ends up stabbing Varish with the dagger, and then taking the dagger, getting Violet out of her restraints, and pretty much helping her escape. So I kind of don't know how to feel about Dane right now. On the one hand, he does help her escape, but on the other, he did tell him and he did take her memories. But as soon as they escape, once they open the door, Xaden is on the other side and he almost kills Dane, but Violet tells him not to. She kind of explains what's going on, and Xaden gives Dane the choice to either come with them or die right now. Dane decides to come with them. So when they get back upstairs, Garrick is actually at sword point by Violet's mom. So her mom ends up talking to her and pretty much tells her that she made a deal with Xaden to keep her alive, and Xaden would be able to be a wing leader and take care of all those underneath him. Her mom did know about everything going on, and she had a feeling that once Violet knew, she was going to kind of expose everything. The timeline just was sped up a little bit by doing it this way. So it is interesting to see. I do think her mom cares about her a lot, but has just a weird way of showing it. So then Violet decides that she wants to give everybody the choice since they will be escaping right away, and they call formation and tell everybody about the Venom and the Wyvern, and I guess some people's dragons choose not to tell them that it's actually true. So it turns out that over 200 people and their dragons are going to actually come back with them to Erasia. So we end with all of them back at Erasia, and Violet is going to Brennan to be healed again. So far, I'm loving this book. I can't wait to see what part 2 is going to bring. I have tried to avoid any reviews so far. I've seen a couple people that haven't liked it and some that have. One thing that I did see, which I kind of agree with, was somebody said that it seems to be really episodic. because it's going to be turned into a TV show. So they were wondering if she kind of wrote it that way to go along with making the TV show easier to write and plan out and film. I feel like we get some parts where it's like really, really intense and everything is happening, and then just some other parts where they're talking and doing things, which kind of goes with the flow of a TV show. So I'm interested to see how that is going to play out, and I'm really excited to start part 2. Oh, and somehow in that clip that I just filmed, I forgot to mention that Violet killed Varish. Oh my gosh, she ends up stabbing him with Xaden's help, and I'm so happy that he's dead. I know that Tarn was trying to find his orange dagger tail, wasn't able to, and Solus somehow got away. I'm surprised that Solus lived after Varish died, but I think we'll probably get into that in the second part. But I just wanted to come back and say that because, oh my god, go girl, I can't believe you killed him. Okay, so I finally read a little bit of part 2. I don't know what happened there. I kind of took like a week off. I was really busy. I went home for Thanksgiving and just did not have any time to listen and read at the same time, so it didn't get done. But here we go. So they're all in Eratia now, and Mira actually comes because Xaden goes to get her, so that was really nice. He knew Violet wanted her to be there, and I know Violet had a little bit of trouble with Mira because she didn't believe her at first, but the first thing she said was, "I'm sorry I didn't believe you, and let's go from here." So that was really nice to see, and it's good that all of the Sorrengail siblings are now together again. So Violet does try to set up the words once. She manages to translate the book, but I guess in the end she translated it wrong. So the word rain that she thought it was actually supposed to be fire. And I actually ended right where she figures out how to actually set up the words. But she goes to Rhiannon and she's just like, I don't know if we should set them up. So I'm excited to see what exactly it entails. I believe it entails like dragon fire, and I'm just excited to see what happens there. But because she is unable to set up the wards the first time, she actually wants to go to Takaris's home, is the guy who owns the luminary that they're trying to get. He wants her to come there and wield for him, but Xaden is completely against it, and he tells her she can't go. So Violet being Violet, which this is something that annoys me about her every time, she actually talks to Mira and Brennan, and they end up going without Xaden's knowledge. But nothing is done without Xaden's knowledge, so he finds out, and he's actually there before them and greets them when he gets there, and that was really funny. Because when they get there, Tarn is like, you are not going to like this welcoming. And clearly she doesn't, because Xaden is there and he's not supposed to know. But when she gets there, we find out that Kat, Xaden's ex, is Takaris's niece, which is slightly annoying because I do not like Kat, and she has been making things really, really hard for Violet. So like I said before, Takaris wants Violet to wield for him, so he sets up this whole show where she goes down into this pit-like thing, and they bring a box that's Xaden's dad's box, and he says, I want you to destroy this box. So Violet's like, okay, fine, I'm gonna do it. I don't care that it's your dad's box. But when she gets down there are soldiers holding the box, and one has a key, and he opens it, and out comes a Venin. So somehow Takaris is able to capture Venin and put them in this box. Xaden says that the box actually is something where it suspends whatever is inside of it, so it actually doesn't touch the ground, which is why the Venin isn't able to suck up all the magic and get out of the box. Luckily, Mira and Brennan come to her rescue and help kill the Venin. Violet ends up electrifying all of the water that is on the ground and killing it. So go Violet, but Xaden is furious, which I don't blame him, because why would Takaris do this? In the end, they end up getting the luminary, but they also have to take back all of the Griffin riders with them. So then in order for the Griffins to prove that they can train with the dragons, they end up having to climb up this cliff. This cliff has dozens of traps all over it, and some of which have not been triggered. So they do all get to this point at the top where there's this trap that has arrows that shoot out. They have to jump over this one brick, and Violet manages to do it, but then one of the Griffin riders, Luella, I believe her name was, she's tinier than Violet, and she actually steps on the rock and triggers the trap, and 2 arrows shoot Riddick in his side. So I was super worried that he was going to die, but luckily Brennan comes and saves him, so that was really good. But Luella, she ends up falling off of the cliff, and all of the Griffin riders blame Violet for not holding on, but Violet never actually had her. Violet had two of them at the same time, and Luella just slipped, so it was not Violet's fault. But everybody is blaming her, and Kat's making it even harder for her now. But at the same time, when that Griffin is dying after Luella dies, kind of like how the dragons die if their rider dies, a wyvern comes flying out of the sky and eats the Griffin that's dying, and pretty much everything goes into chaos. Violet and Taryn, though, manage to electrify a cloud where all of the wyvern are hiding and manage to kill them all in one shot with her electricity, so that was really good. But then they kind of have to regroup and take care of everybody after that. And then the last thing that I've read is once they get back to Erasia, they give them a couple more days, and I guess they're still not working well with each other. So they're pretty much told that the Dragon Riders are going to be merging with the Griffin Riders and becoming one squad. So obviously Violet's squad gets Kat, which is slightly annoying because Kat cannot deal with her own emotions because she wants Xaden, she wants that crown. But Xaden does not want her. Although they are allowed to ask for a challenge, so Kat challenges Violet, and they pretty much beat up on each other, and Violet wins in the end, which was good, and she almost kills Kat. Xaden's like, do whatever you have to, but I know you're gonna feel bad if you kill her, so Violet does not end up killing her. And then lastly, Violet has been translating with Dane. Like I said earlier, she was able to find out actually how to set up the wards, so I'm excited to see what happens next, and I've got to get to work right now, so I'll talk to you when I read a little bit more. Bye. Okay, so much has happened since I last talked to you, and I have been on a wild ride with this book. I am really enjoying it, so I'm just going to get right on into it. So the first thing I want to talk about is Violet's dreams that she's been having. She's been having this dream where the sage is coming to her and talking to her, and pretty much now it's like touching her, which is even creepier because it's a dream and he shouldn't be able to touch her. But he does tell her pretty much word for word that you'll tear down the wards yourself when the time comes, and you'll do it for love or you'll die. I really feel like that's going to be a significant part. Maybe not in this book, but later on in like the later books where everything is kind of going crazy. But I feel like that's like a pinpoint that I need to pay attention to. Also, we find out why Violet doesn't want to put up the wards right away as well. We find out that in Basgiath, where the wards are, the Griffin Riders, if they're inside the wards, they don't have any powers. They can't channel like they do. And Violet didn't want to have to take that away from all of them where they are in Erasia right now. So it was nice of her to think of them, but at the same time, those wards needed to go up. So that was something that needed to be done, and it did get done in the end, so that was good. But I will get to that a little bit later, because that was crazy as well. So poor little Andarna has a bum wing. She's come out black. I think I talked about that before, which is kind of surprising since she was gold. But Violet's been seeing that she's actually kind of like shimmering different colors. I think she's been like blue and green, so I'm not really sure what color she's actually going to end up being in the end. With her bum wing, they're trying to strengthen it so that she can fly, because it is really limiting her ability to fly with them, and she still has to be clipped onto Tarn whenever they're going long distances. But Andarna being an adolescent, that has come into play a lot because she's feisty and she won't take no for an answer anymore. And then speaking about Andarna actually ends up killing Solus. So I'm finally glad that he is gone, but wow, that was crazy. So they're actually out doing a training exercise where they're looking for these things in caves and stuff like that. And in the cave that they're looking in, Solus is hiding, and he comes out charging. He breathes fire over them. So Andarna protects them all because she's fireproof. So she's able to take the heat from Solus's fire and save them all from getting burned. But in the end, she actually ends up killing Solus, and they called her a slayer. I guess it's not good for a dragon to kill another dragon. So she had to go in front of the Imperium, and they had to approve this killing, essentially. But they found her clear and that it was justified, so that was good. But Solus is dead, finally. Hallelujah. Oh, and during that whole time, Sloane's signet manifests, and she's actually a siphon, so she can take the power from other people and I guess use it for her own. So then Xaden and Violet finally have it out. They're talking to each other about what's going on and how they haven't really had a chance to talk this whole time. And Violet actually comes straight out and asks Xaden what his second signet is. I had totally forgot about this. I guess if a dragon is bonded to one of your relatives, that enables them to give you a second signet. And Xaden has not told anybody what his is yet, with good reason, because it actually turns out that he's an intrinsic, and that is a signet that is pretty much killable upon finding out that you are one. In the first book, we see that where they kill him when he starts like reading minds. So if Xaden had told anybody what his second signet was, they probably would have killed him. But this is causing a lot of problems between Violet and Xaden because she feels like he's been manipulating her, and he really hasn't been. But then, of course, during this whole conversation, we find out that wyverns are on the way and that they really need to set up the wards like ASAP, otherwise they're pretty much all dead. So Violet ends up telling them how to do it, and I guess they need the power from all the dragons in order to do that. They fire breathe onto the stone that has been imbued with power, since they've been doing that the whole time while they've been researching. And the wards actually do go up. They feel them go up and everybody is safe. So then we go with them out to the edge of the wards where they see all the wyverns flying in, and 2 are sent across and they pretty much die immediately crossing the wards. They cross them and then they pretty much like fall out of the sky. So something is still wrong. The Griffin Riders can still wield, which should not be possible if the wards were set up correctly. And we get confirmation of this when Melgren actually calls a meeting between them. So they all go, and Melgren comes with some of the people from Basgiath, and Violet's mom is actually there. And Violet's mom tells Violet that there is something wrong with your wards. You need to pretty much go back out, check the wyverns, and cut them open and see what happens. So they actually go and do that, and the wyverns come back to life, which should not be possible. Inside of them, there's a stone that actually has runes on it. So they're piecing things together, and somebody is giving the sages and Venin these stones to make all the wyvern in the first place. We need to figure out who that is so we can take them out. Oh, and during that meeting, Brennan actually walks out, and he is super angry at his mom, but his mom is just like floored. She's just like, oh my God, you're still alive. Like, how is this possible? So that was nice to see. She really does care about her kids, even though Brennan seems to think she doesn't because she's been putting them all in danger's way. But that is the way of the world where we are. And in the end, the reason that Melgren was there calling that meeting was because Samara was going to be the next outpost that was attacked, as Melgren can see the future. And he sees that Samara falls, so he came to actually ask them for help, which in the end they actually deny. And they're pretty adamant about it until Violet is in class one day and she realizes that Samara is not the post that they're actually going for. The Wyvern and Venin are actually headed straight for Basgiath and the hatching grounds. So this is not good. And I guess the reason that Melgren couldn't see that battle was because they were actually there helping, and Melgren can't see more than 3 of the marked ones at a time. He can't see what's going on with them. So he didn't know that Basgiath was the actual place that the war was actually going to be happening. When Violet and whoever wants to help gets there, there's pretty much nobody there. It's just her mom and a couple other people there, and she has to convince them to help. So Violet actually asks her mom to see the wards. She doesn't want to show them at first, but Dane is pretty much like, my dad showed me where these were one time, so I'm going to take you regardless. So they all go down, and the people that are supposed to be protecting the wards are actually dead. So as soon as that happens, they know something is going down. They walk into the chamber, and there's a dragon in there. Guess whose freaking dragon it is? Jack effin' Barlow. I was really hoping that he was going to be a better person, but clearly that's not the case because he actually ends up taking down the wards. So he has his dragon breathe fire, and then he takes his sword and actually kills his dragon in order for like the dragon blood, I guess, to get the wards, and that deactivates them, and all hell is about to break loose. And that is exactly where I stopped. I have about 60 pages left. I'm really excited. I just did not have any more time to finish it last night. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go read those pages, and then I will come back tomorrow after I've really taken it in and thought about everything, and I will close this vlog out with my thoughts for the last 60 pages. Okay, so I'm here with my final check-in. I finished reading Iron Flame last night. I had a really good time, but let's talk about what happened in the last 60 pages and then I'll talk about my overall feelings. So first off, Jack turned into a Venom. I guess I was completely wrong when I was hoping that he would turn into like a nicer guy since he ended up saving Violet. I'm not sure why he saved her though. Maybe because the Sage Venom wants her and he was working with him. We really didn't find out any more information, but he did end up letting her live, so I had high hopes that he would be a little bit better, but apparently that was not the case, seeing as he killed his own dragon, brought down the wards, and now has Venom magic too. But Brennan actually came back with all of the Griffin riders. He knew that they were going to be a little bit slower and he brought them along with him to help in the war. So that ended up bolstering their numbers. So then we head right on into the fight. Violet ends up taking out a bunch of them right away, but once they get too close, she doesn't want to hit all of the other dragons as well. So she's kind of limited at that point. But there is one point where she is fighting a sage and she's stuck in her saddle trying to get out, but she can't. The clip is just like stuck in. So Rhiannon jumps onto Tarn to help protect Violet and she takes on the sage, which was awesome. I think Rhiannon is such a badass. I can't wait to see more of her. So then Jacinia comes out with a retranslation of the other journal, and she says that instead of the number 6, which is the amount of dragons that breathed fire onto the wardstone in Erasia, she thinks it's actually a number 7, and then there's a 7th dragon that should be breathing fire, and that's why things like didn't work in Erasia. And then as soon as Jacinia said that it should be a 7, I kind of put all the things together and I was like, and Darna is the 7th dragon. That's why she's a shimmery color, because she's not actually a black dragon. And there was a part at the end where Violet's talking to Andarna and she's like, I just wanted to be black because I wanted to be like him, because she looks up to Tarn and it was so cute. And actually that part made me cry. I just love Andarna. She pretty much saved the day here and was able to help them reset the wards to Bezgaia. Well, as soon as that happened, all of the wyvern fell out of the sky and the sages retreated because they couldn't fight inside the wards anymore now that they were back up. But while this is going on, Violet is trying to imbue the stone because once Brennan mended it, it was able to accept magic again, but they had to put it back in there, kind of like how they had to do it at Erasia the first time, where every little bit they were putting in, but this time it needed to be done like immediately. So Violet tries to put as much as she can into it. She was actually going to burn herself out and pretty much die in order to put these wards back up. And she blocked Xaden out so he couldn't feel her, but her mom saw her pretty much burning out and grabbed Sloane, who is the siphon, and is like, you are going to take all of my power and my dragon's power and put it into that stone. Sloane didn't want to, but in the end she was forced to, and General Sorengale actually dies, but in doing this they are able to bring back the wards. So she traded herself for the wards, and she said that all she ever cared about was her children, and this is to protect them. And then once Violet is awake again and a little bit more stable, she actually goes out to see how Xaden is doing, because one of the dragons calls over to her and says that Xaden needs you. He is blocking her out completely. So when we get there, we're like, kind of, what happened to Xaden? And he turns around and he's a Venom. What? He talks about it in his little last chapter that he had, but oh my god, I was not seeing that coming. Mind blown. So like I said, in the last chapter, which is his chapter, he is in the dungeon talking to Jack, asking him if it's possible to undo this. But Jack says, why would you want to? We're super powerful now. But all Xaden wants to do is go back to how he was, because he does not want to be a Venom. He is worried that Violet is not going to accept him. Although we really don't see them interact too much. We just see them go to bed together. So I guess in some sense she did accept it. I kind of am interested to see in what happens in the next book though, if she takes that any further. I do feel like I wanted more of Xaden and Violet though. We didn't get to see a lot of them together. They were pretty much separated for most of this book. Even when they were in Erasia together, they weren't ever together doing things. Although there were a couple more sex scenes in this book than there were in the last book. I really enjoyed the dragons in this one. I had a really good time with them in the first one too, but Andarna being so snarky, I really liked. I have a bunch of the tabs that I put in that have to do pretty much just with all the dragons talking and their snark to each other. So those last 60 pages were crazy. I had a really good time with this book. I did end up giving it a 5-star. It wasn't as good as the first book. I think that is still going to be my favorite book out of the two. It is going to be my top book of the year. I absolutely loved Fourth Wing when I read it earlier this year, and I really did love Iron Flame as well. Both of them get 5 stars from me, so this so far is a 5-star series, and I'm really excited to see what comes next. So you can probably tell I love this book. Also, the amount of tabs that I put in this, there is so much writing in here. I had such a good time. I am sad that it's over. I did take it slow. It took me actually till pretty much the end of the month to finish this book, and I started it on the 7th, but I'm excited for a reread before the next one comes out. And then last night I got inspired. I ended up moving all of my Fourth Wings and Iron Flames onto one shelf. I kind of had them in different places, but now they are all together front and center, and I really, really like the way it looks. But that's it for my vlog. I hope you had a really good time going through this book with me. If you've read it, please tell me any of your thoughts and ideas for the next one down below in the comments. I would love to chat with you. Send me a message. I have an Instagram, DNJ Reads, same as my YouTube, that I would love to chat with you on. But that's it for today. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!